English Rise Podcast.
Emma, I have a serious question.
Uh-oh. Whenever you say, I have a serious question, it usually isn't serious at all.
If a parrot learns English, does it become an English teacher or just a very confident student?
Alex, that's probably the strangest question I've heard all week.
Wait, I'm not finished. Imagine the parrot says, I speak better English than my owner. Who gets embarrassed, the owner or the parrot?
Poor owner. I think the owner should start taking English lessons from the parrot.
Maybe. But do you know what's actually funny? A parrot doesn't worry about making mistakes. It simply starts speaking.
That's surprisingly true. And humans, who are much smarter, often stay silent because they're afraid of saying one wrong word.
Exactly. So here's today's mystery. Why do millions of people study English for years, understand movies, read books, know hundreds or even thousands of words, yet freeze the moment someone says, "Can you tell me about yourself?" Don't answer yet, because the real reason has almost nothing to do with grammar. And by the end of today's conversation, you may discover that the biggest obstacle has been hiding inside your mind all along.
Alex, what you just said reminds me of something that happened a few weeks ago. I met a woman who had studied English for almost 6 years. She understood podcasts. She watched English movies without subtitles. She even read books in English. But when someone simply asked, "How are you?" she smiled and whispered, "I'm sorry, my English isn't good."
6 years and she still believed she couldn't speak?
Yes, and that's what surprised me. The problem wasn't her English, it was her confidence.
That's an important difference. Many learners think, if I learn more grammar, then I'll start speaking. But later, they learn more grammar, and they still don't speak. Then they think, maybe I need more vocabulary. So they memorize another 1,000 words. Yet when a real conversation begins, they become completely silent.
Which raises another question. If knowledge isn't the problem, what is? Keep thinking about that, because the answer is probably not what you expect.
Imagine someone gives you the keys to a beautiful car. The engine is perfect. The fuel tank is full. Everything works perfectly. But you're afraid to drive. So the car never leaves the parking lot. Was the problem the car or the fear of moving?
Learning English can feel exactly like that. Many people already have the knowledge, but fear keeps the engine turned off.
Fear of what? Making mistakes? Being laughed at? Sounding strange? Having an accent? The interesting part is, most people aren't afraid of English. They're afraid of being judged.
And here's something ironic. When you speak with confidence, people usually remember your ideas, not your mistakes. But when you're busy worrying about every mistake, you stop sharing your ideas completely.
Think about how children learn their first language. Do they wait until every sentence is perfect? Of course not. They make mistakes, hundreds of them, thousands of them. And every mistake moves them one step closer to fluency.
Imagine if a 2-year-old said, "I'm going to wait until my grammar is perfect." No child has ever done that. They simply speak, they fall, they learn, and then they speak again.
So maybe the biggest difference between children and adults isn't intelligence. It's permission. Children give themselves permission to be beginners. Adults often don't.
And maybe that's the real question we should all ask. What if the thing stopping you from speaking isn't your English at all? What if it's the story you keep telling yourself every time you open your mouth?
Emma, let's imagine something very simple. You walk into a coffee shop. The person behind the counter smiles and asks, "What would you like?" Suddenly, your heart starts beating faster. Your mind goes completely blank, and the sentence you practiced 100 times simply disappears. Why does that happen?
That's such an interesting question. Because just 5 minutes earlier, you were speaking to yourself perfectly. You knew every word, every sentence, every expression. So, where did your English go?
The truth is, it didn't go anywhere. Your English is still there. Your brain just changed its priority. Instead of focusing on communication, it started focusing on survival.
Survival? That sounds a little dramatic.
It does, but think about it. Your brain doesn't always know the difference between physical danger and social danger. For thousands of years, being rejected by your group could actually be dangerous. Today, making a grammar mistake isn't dangerous, but sometimes your brain reacts as if it is.
Which explains why your hands might shake, why your voice sounds different, why you suddenly forget very simple words. It's not because you're bad at English. It's because anxiety is temporarily driving the car.
Have you ever noticed that after the conversation ends, you suddenly remember the perfect sentence?
All the time. You walk away and suddenly think, that's exactly what I should have said. It's almost unfair.
Exactly. Your brain says, "Congratulations. Now that there's no pressure, here's the perfect answer."
So maybe fluency isn't only about knowing English. Maybe it's also about staying calm while using English.
That's a huge difference. Many learners practice only vocabulary, only grammar, only pronunciation, but they never practice being calm during a conversation.
Imagine an athlete. Would they train only on easy days? Of course not. They train under pressure, because pressure changes performance. Speaking English works the same way.
Here's another mistake many learners make. They wait to become confident before they speak. But confidence doesn't come before action. It comes because of action.
Think about riding a bicycle. No one becomes confident before their first ride. Confidence grows after falling, getting up, trying again, and realizing, I can actually do this.
So what if every conversation isn't a test? What if it's simply another practice session? Wouldn't that remove so much pressure?
I think it would. Because once you stop trying to sound perfect, you finally start sounding natural. And here's something most native speakers already know. They don't expect perfection. They expect communication.
Earlier, we asked, what's really stopping you from speaking? We've discovered that it isn't grammar, it isn't vocabulary, and it isn't pronunciation alone. But we're still missing one final piece. Why do some learners break through their fear and become confident speakers, while others stay trapped for years, even though they study just as hard? That final answer changes everything you've believed about learning English.
Alex, throughout today's conversation, we've discovered something quite surprising. The biggest obstacle isn't a lack of vocabulary. It isn't grammar. It isn't your accent. So, what is it?
It's permission. Permission to be imperfect. Permission to hesitate. Permission to make mistakes without believing those mistakes define you.
Let me ask you one last question. When a child mispronounces a word, what do most adults do? Do they laugh and tell the child to stop speaking?
No, they smile. They encourage them. Sometimes they gently correct them. Then they say, "Try again."
Exactly. Now here's the interesting part. Why do we offer that kindness to children, but not to ourselves? Why do we believe that one mistake means I'm terrible at English?
Imagine you've learned 1,000 English words. During a conversation, you forget just one word. Does that mean you know 0 words? Of course not. But sometimes our minds focus on the one thing that went wrong instead of the hundreds that went right.
That's because our brains naturally notice mistakes more than success. If you don't understand that, you'll keep believing you're making no progress, even when you're improving every single week.
Here's a challenge. The next time you finish an English conversation, don't ask, "How many mistakes did I make?" Instead ask, "Did the other person understand me?" Because communication is the goal, not perfection.
Think about the conversations you've enjoyed the most. Were they perfect? Probably not. People paused. People searched for words. People laughed. People interrupted themselves. That's what real conversations sound like, even along native speakers.
Many learners are waiting for the perfect day. The day their grammar is perfect. Their pronunciation is perfect. Their confidence is perfect. But that day never arrives, because confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you build, one conversation at a time.
Earlier, we joked about the parrot. Remember? The funny part wasn't that it could speak. It was that it never worried about sounding silly. Maybe there's a lesson hidden inside that little joke.
Imagine if every mistake became proof that you're learning instead of proof that you're failing. How different would speaking English feel? How much sooner would you raise your hand, start a conversation, or answer without fear?
The truth is, fluency isn't built inside textbooks. It's built inside conversations. Some conversations will be easy. Some will be awkward. Some will be unforgettable. But every single one moves you forward.
So, the next time someone asks, "Can you tell me about yourself?" Don't search for the perfect sentence. Take a breath, smile, and simply begin. Because every confident speaker you admire today was once a beginner who decided to speak anyway.
If there's one message we hope you remember after today's episode, it's this. Don't let the fear of making mistakes stop you from making progress. Every conversation teaches you something. Every sentence makes you stronger. Every small step brings you closer to the speaker you want to become.
Keep speaking, keep learning, keep making mistakes. Because every mistake is another step toward fluency. And as always, keep rising with English Rise Podcast.